You know the expression that there's only two things in life that are certain? Well, there's three: death, taxes, and Tom Brady in the championship game again for the ninth time in 10 years. And the only time he missed it was last year when Brady didn't give an F, Belichick didn't give an F. It's like unbelievable. And the dude has been there for 14 times now in the championship game. That's as many championship titles that Tiger Woods has. Brady's been to the AFC and now the NFC championship game 14 times in his career, 9 over the past 10 of them. The only time he missed was last year. Unbelievable. And it's just absolutely miraculous what this man has been able to do over his career. But I'm not going to lather his career. I'm not going to salivate over his career. We all know what kind of career he's had. But I do want to talk about Brady and the Bucs against New Orleans on Sunday. For this early segment of Quick Hits, I'm going to be talking about the divisional round playoffs and the Celtics getting massacred by the New York Knickerbockers. So, first game that we had on Saturday was the Los Angeles Rams versus the Green Bay Packers. And I do have a few notes or takeaways from that game real quick. Aaron Donald was clearly injured, even though the team reported that he was fine with no restrictions. You could easily tell that Donald was not out there all too often. He was not 100% playing. Whenever he was on the field, you could see him grimacing on the sideline. And when the Rams needed to get defensive stops, they couldn't get him. And he wasn't even on the field to attempt to get those stops. So there's clearly something going on with Donald that the Rams were keeping under the covers. Aaron Rodgers looked incredible, yet again proving why he's the MVP of the 2020 NFL season. There was a good debate between him, Mahomes, Allen a little bit, but Allen definitely fell off when Mahomes and Rodgers took off. And I think Rodgers, I know the regular season and the playoffs are two separate things, especially when it comes to the MVP discussion, but Aaron Rodgers proved again why he is the league MVP for the 2020 season. Davante Adams is the best wide receiver in the National Football League. That's just a fact, not an opinion. I mean, look at his stats, and he missed a couple games on top of that. There's tons of great wide receivers out there this league has, but Davante Adams had an incredible season. Obviously, it helps with that he has Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball, but nonetheless, Davante Adams proved yet again why he is the best wide receiver in the National Football League for the 2020 NFL season. Green Bay's defense has been good as it ever has been in a long time. I mean, that defense can get stops. They can play the run. They can play the pass. Their front seven looks good. Their secondary looks good. I can't remember a time that the Green Bay defense looked this good. I'm not a big Green Bay fan, obviously, so I can't really recall which years they were good and which years weren't. But I know the year that they won the Super Bowl over 10 years ago, they had an excellent killer defense, and I think that this defense might be better than that. But I digress. Next game we had on Saturday was the the Baltimore Ravens versus the Buffalo Bills, It was 17-3. That game was the most boring playoff game I think I've ever seen in a long time. And granted, the Patriots had a pretty boring Super Bowl themselves versus the Rams, 13-3. But, that's my hometown team that I'm rooting for, so it wasn't all too boring for me. However, being an outside fan looking in, this 17-3 game just progressed and played out very, very boringly. I could have took a nap, to be honest, and missed nothing. But I was able to see that Lamar Jackson passing abilities are yet again exposed. The offense couldn't get anything going. The ground game, the passing game, the trick plays, the play action bootlegs, you name it, they couldn't do anything against that Buffalo defense. And Buffalo, again, proving a reason why they have a legitimate defense. And they were able to stop the run. A lot of critics, a lot of media members were saying that they couldn't stop the run, that their strength is in the secondary. But boy, were they able to stop the run this time around. And it was pretty good to see that the Bills held the Ravens' high rushing attack, whatever you want to call them, to only 3 points. That Buffalo defense might stand a chance against Kansas City if Mahomes isn't playing, but I'll get to that in a moment. Josh Allen has become a legitimate quarterback, arguably a top 10 quarterback right now in the NFL, and has progressed every year since he's gone into the league his rookie season a couple of years ago. He had a lot of raw potential, insane arm strength, and he was just a running, scrambling quarterback with no accuracy, and he's proven improved every single year since his rookie season, and he's really developed into an actual quarterback. And him, Stephon Diggs, scary duo, let me tell you. But Cleveland, Kansas City, what a game. That might have been one of the craziest games that we had this weekend. And Chiefs ended up winning 22-17. The big storyline there is Patrick Mahomes got knocked out of that game, and he ended up being ruled out with a concussion, and his status for the championship game this Sunday is in question, which I alluded to when I was talking about the Bills' defense. If the Chiefs don't have Mahomes, that game is definitely a toss-up. If the Chiefs have Mahomes, Kansas City's probably going to win that game. However, regardless of Mahomes' status, if he's able to play or not, that's going to be a good game nonetheless. And even if Mahomes is good to go, how good is he going to be? He has a concussion. It's hard to get over a concussion in just 7 days, 6 days, whatever you want to call it. And he has to be careful for his long-term health. I even said during the game on Sunday that if Mahomes is cleared to come back to play against the Browns, he should not. I mean, that kind of hit that he took, and did you see him get up? He thought he was in freaking Canada. He thought it was Super Bowl like 71 when he got up and tried to brush it off. But you could clearly tell that he had no idea where he was. You could see in his eyes and his jiggly legs. But that is the storyline leaving that game. The Kansas City offense is unstoppable with Mahomes, which everyone kind of knows about. Their offense looked really good, and you can tell that they weren't kicking it into that second gear that offense can kick it into, and they were still pushing the ball down the field. And I do have to shout out the Browns defense for holding them to a lot of field goals that game to make it relatively a close game for the Browns to even be in a position to come back to potentially win. Browns leaving points on the board. I really thought there was a couple times they should have went for 2, but they only went for 1, which, I mean, if you want to look back at it, do the math. It's a toss-up whether it's a smart play or not to go for 2 or for 1. But the big points that they left on the board was that fumble at the goal line where the ball rolled out of bounds in the end zone. That was a killer, and if you look back at it, that's the difference. They get that 6 points, they win the game. That's brutal. I was pulling for the Browns to win because, I don't know, I'm just kind of sick of the Chiefs, and the Browns had an insane storyline all season, being doubted, haven't been to the playoffs, haven't won the playoffs in, decades. But they made it to the playoffs, they won a playoff game, and they danced with the Chiefs. Even when Mahomes was still in the game, they were playing with him. But when Mahomes went out, though, and Chad Henne went in to be the backup quarterback and to finish the game, the Chiefs got bold. Let me tell you, they got bold and risky. Henne converting big plays to seal the dub when the Chiefs had the ball with 3-4 minutes to go. Rolling out, throwing to tight windows, scrambling for extra yards. It was something good to watch. And, that's a good thing for the Chiefs that they have a quarterback that can step up and fill in Patrick Mahomes' role to a certain degree. Obviously, he's no Mahomes, and we can clearly see that terrible interception he threw in the end zone. Oh, my goodness. I think Mahomes concussed would have made a better throw. But it's, if you don't have Mahomes next week against the Buffalo Bills, you do have a solid backup quarterback that can fill that role to a degree. Like I said, either way, whether Mahomes plays or Mahomes doesn't, that's going to be a good game that a lot of people are going to watch. And I think a lot of people are rooting for the Bills, to be honest. But let me know what you think. If you're watching on YouTube, comment down below if you want the Bills or the Chiefs, or if you want the Packers or the Bucks for Sunday's championship Sunday. But the game of the weekend, the Bucks versus the Saints. Breeze versus Brady. The Bucks win 30-20. Both offenses and defenses had their good and bad stretches throughout the entire game. Bucks defense looked really nice. Saints defense looked nice at times. Vice versa. Saints offense looked nice. The Bucks offense looked nice at times, of course. But the only time the Saints offense looked really good was probably the first quarter when they had those first 2 drives when they settled for field goals. And the Bucks defense held down the fort. They bent and didn't break. That's just the epitome of playoff defense. Really is, if you have a high-powered offense, you got to be able to bend and don't break. If you bend and break, you're not going to win the game. And the Bucks were able to win the game while the Saints weren't because their insane defense bent and broke. So, most importantly, though, the Bucks were able to make timely defensive plays by getting stops in the red zone and getting turnovers, which the Saints weren't able to do, As we could see, the Saints had 3 turnovers in that game, which, being a 2-possession game, that's the difference of the game right there. So you got to protect the ball. You can't throw the ball into wide open defenders, and you can't conduct turnovers and expect to win the game, especially in the playoffs, versus a pretty good Bucs team, as we can kind of tell. It was a flag-heavy game. I mean, I don't know if you noticed when I was watching it, it was like every damn play, flag, flag, flag. It's like, dude, come on. You know you can't do that. Stop getting these penalties, and the refs, letting them play to a degree. There was one ticky-tack push-off that I didn't think was necessary, but they still called the flag. It's just like, ugh. This stuff ruins the game, all these flags. And that little thump that you heard was my head hitting the microphone, because these flags are so annoying. It just slows down the game. It turns a 3-hour game to a 3.5-hour game. And in a game this close, you don't mind it, but it's just like, ugh, another flag. Another flag. But anyways, Drew Brees clearly did not have his best game, which is also a storyline in itself, along with Brady going to his umpteenth championship game. But that could have been Drew Brees' last game as a quarterback. He hasn't made an announcement yet what he's going to do. Similar situation last year. He's going to take some time to think about it, as he rightfully should, being 42 years old. He has wife and 3 kids. That Brady threw a touchdown pass to one of Brees' kids. It was a cute little moment there. If you haven't seen the video, definitely check it out. It's just a touching moment between 2 great human beings that are very competitive, but they put humanity first, and you can tell that they're good friends. Playing each other 3 times this year was fun to watch. The Saints got the better of them twice, but Brady got the best of Brees when it mattered, and that's all that matters. That's all that really matters, is showing up when you need to show up to play. And I hope that it's not Brees' last game. I love watching him play. I know he broke some ribs, the punctured lung. He had a down season, though. I don't want to say it's because of the injury, but that's definitely probably the reason why, and probably something he's going to consider when he contemplates retirement. Like I said, I hope he doesn't retire. I understand if he does. I think he will. But, we're just going to have to wait and see what he does. But that's my recap, my takeaway from the NFL Divisional round this weekend. It was awesome. They're full of good games, except the Ravens and Bills, because that game just sucked. But I do want to get over to one more quick hit, and that's the Celtics getting 30-pieced by the New York Knickerbockers. Boy, did the Celtics suck against the Knicks. And the Knicks are a young team. They got a lot of good young pieces, but they're not there yet. And the Celtics, who are in championship mode, who are trying to win now, even though they're a little bit away, can't get 30-pieced by the Knicks. You can't get 30-pieced in general. I get it's going to happen every now and then to a good team or whatever. But to the Knicks, my guy, come on. It's just like, how many times are you going to take these easy games, or what you would think are easy games, and just get absolutely obliterated? Whether you're home or away, it shouldn't matter where you are. You shouldn't be losing by 30 to a lottery team. That's just the difference between getting the 4 seed, the 3 seed, the 2 seed, and the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Eastern Conference is pretty much open. I mean, I know I talked about the Harden-Nets trade, but I mean, that's just an implosion waiting to happen. The Bucks are there, the Heat are there, but it's still anyone's, conference to grab, really. You just got to go on a nice stretch, win a couple games, win the ones that matter for the tiebreakers, and just, I don't know. I don't think the Celtics have it this year. Obviously, I want them to be able to win another championship, but losing 30 to the Knicks, or losing by 30 to any team, really isn't going to cut it, ain't going to get it done, whether it's in the standings or in the Eastern Conference. But, okay. Those were my quick hits. I know it kind of took up almost 15 minutes, but I'm going to get into the topic box. And let's see. I threw a few more topics in here, so we do have some fresh new topics that I want to get to. Hopefully we get to it, but let's see. Why? This one's funny. Why Major League Baseball is dying, and here's how to save it. Okay. This one is kind of obvious. Yeah, baseball's the dying sport. We all can kind of tell that. The ratings are down. The games are long. I was talking about the Saints Bucks games being a 3.5 hour game. And what are you more likely able to watch? A 3.5 hour football game or a 3.5 hour baseball game? I don't know about you, but I'd rather sit and watch the football game. Now, if it's game 7 of the World Series, damn, make that thing 4.5 hours. I'll sit and watch. But baseball's a dying sport because the pitchers on the mound take forever to throw the ball. They throw the pitch, catcher catches it, throws it back, pitcher catches it, takes his cap off, rubs his sweat, walks around the mound 3-4 times, puts the cap back on, glove in his armpit, rubs the ball, adjusts his cup, scratch his butt, put the glove back on, blow into his hand, kind of flick and twirl the ball in his hand, gets on the rubber, looks into the catcher, shakes off the first pitch, shakes off the second pitch, steps off, gets back into the rubber, blows into the hand, wipes the sweat, looks into the catcher, shakes off the first pitch, agrees onto the second pitch, and then the batter calls time. It's like, oh my goodness, guys, just get the ball and throw it. And like, there's countless people who have gone on tyrants and rants about this, and that is probably one of the reasons why baseball is a dying sport. I mean, the game is so slow, and they have attempted to take measures to speed it up, but those measures suck. I don't know if anyone's been to any minor league games for the Paw Sox or whoever, the Yard Goats in Hartford, but they got a pitch clock. They got I think it was a 20-second pitch clock. It might have been down to 15. I don't remember. And that works great. You get in and out in 2.5 hours because you only have so much time to catch the ball, to blow your hand, fix your cleats, scratch your butt, read the sign, throw the pitch. I mean, you only got 20 seconds, and otherwise it's going to be a ball. And obviously in a game where every pitch kind of matters, you can't be kind of giving up free balls. So I think that's the first step. And I know Major League Baseball has contemplated and talked about adding this feature into the game. And all the pitchers hate it because they just want to take their sweet time. You've heard David Price on the record saying like, oh, I can take as long as I want to throw the ball or something like that. It's like, yes, but no. Like, I mean, I understand that you're out there, you're being paid to pitch, and you're going to do whatever you can to pitch to the best of your ability. Okay, fine. However, in a fan-driven market, a consumer-driven market, which pretty much all sports are, you have to be accommodating to the fans. And I don't know about you, but if you see the pitcher shake off another pitch, get set, and then the batter calls time, and we got to repeat the process again, it's just like 3 minutes in between each pitch in a game that there's like 200 pitches thrown, probably over 200 pitches thrown. I mean, no one has time for that. No one, and especially when the baseball season is so long, it's 162 games. You just don't have time to sit there and watch all 162 games for 3.5 hours watching the pitchers adjust their cup. Like, come on. Like, pick it up. Like, let's go. And I think the relief pitcher rule is a smart addition where a relief pitcher has to come in. You have to throw to 3 batters minimum unless the inning ends. I like that. It's just way too much ticky-tacky and all that. Right-handed, left-handed, these matchups, that matchup. Then the mound visits, that was getting obnoxious, just kind of going out there in between each and every pitch. Now you can only do 5 a game. That's a good addition. If they add the pitch clock to speed it up, that would be a good addition. And another thing to help save baseball, which they kind of did this 2020 shortened season, which I liked, but I want them to kind of adjust it a little bit, is take a 162 game season, chop it down to 154. Just take off 8 games. Make another playoff round. So I don't know about expanding the field like they did this year. I'm kind of iffy about that because we don't need like half the league to be in the playoffs. The playoffs should be something that you earn. It shouldn't be something you just kind of fall into, right? If they can just kind of take 14 teams, right? 7 from each league. You seed them 1 through 7, like the National Football League, where they have 1 seed all the way down to the 7 seed. You give the first seed of each league a bye, like football. Then you have 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. Play a best of 3, or you can even do a best of 1. I mean, those best of 1 wildcard games are nuts. Now that I speak of it and telling you about it, I love that idea, because when they added that one game playoff wildcard game a few years ago, those are the best games all postseason, all season. I mean, it's just so intense. Everything rides on the line for those 9 innings. Each team has their best pitcher going. Everyone's, ready to go. Everything's on the line. That's what baseball needs. And that first round, the 2 versus 7, 3, whatever, that should be a 1 card plan for everybody. Or, now that I'm thinking about it even more, I should have drafted something up so I can come more prepared. But the show is unscripted and unbiased, so I'm going to stick to that motto, and I'm not going to write up a draft. I'm going to just tell you how I think of it as I come to it. So, I like this. It's in my head, and I'm trying to formulate thoughts right now. Okay, so there are seeds 1 through 6 in the American League and the National League. So there's 12 teams into the playoffs. That's a good number. Seed 6 and 7 in both the American League and National League play each other for a spot to get into the wild card or the division, whatever you want to call it. 1 game playoff, kind of like what they have it. Boom. Okay? Now you have the 6 or the 7 seed in both the American and National League playing the 1 seed. Then 2 versus 5 and 3 versus 4, and that's a best of 3. Okay, next round. It is best of 5. Okay, and then the championship round for the American National League is a best of 7, and then the World Series would obviously be a best of 7 as well. And I just think kind of making each round a little bit more meaningful would kind of juicing it up a little bit, because you have the game plan. Oh, there's only 3 games this series. Oh, there's 5 games this series. You got to get a little smarter with the rotation and the bullpen, your substitutions, making sure you have fresh bodies. That just gives your playoff some juice. And I think what football did this year was adding that 7th seed to each conference, which I originally hated. But after watching that super wildcard weekend, I loved it, because that bye week should be reserved for the best team in each conference, not for the best 2 teams. And just, really battling all season just to get that extra week rest is so deserving for that team that does earn that 1 seed. And now everyone else has to fight in this super wild card weekend, which was awesome. 3 games on Saturday and Sunday. Super exciting, super interesting. And I think that was a really smart decision by the NFL. And now if Major League Baseball kind of adopts a similar concept by having the same 1 game plan, you could even have 2 plans. You could have like a, like a 6 versus 7 and an 8 versus 9. I don't know, you get crazy with it. Or 7 versus 8. The winner of that plays 6 versus 7. I don't know, just make it exciting. That's what us baseball fans want. We want an exciting product. And just having a 162 game, and then the 1 play-in, then the divisional, then the champion, it just gets a little dry and boring after a while, especially in what I have on my piece of paper from the topic box is why baseball is dying. So just to recap that, because I threw a lot out there. So quick recap. Pitch clock, 20 seconds. Ideally 15. I'll settle for 20. I've said this for years. Shorten the regular season down from 162 to 154. If you want to argue for 146, I'll consider that. I think less games in the regular season, the better, to a certain degree. Take the play-in wildcard game and just juicing it up a little bit, where you have these teams fighting to get in, and then they play the top seed, and you just kind of battle from there. However, expand the playoffs just a little bit. Have the wild card be a best of 1, then the next round be a best of 3, the next series, the divisional be best of 5, and the championship be a best of 7. And of course, the World Series being a best of 7 as well. Also, they got rid of like the September call-up roster, which I kind of like, because you get to see some players that you don't really know of from the minor leagues getting a little crack at it in the pros, especially when a team is just out of the running and they're just trying to get their young guys playing, or a team's kind of in it, locked their spot, and they're just getting some young guys in there to get their starters rest. I kind of like that. I wish they kind of bring that back. I know they kind of had a 26th man on the on the roster for COVID reasons. I don't know what they're gonna do when the season becomes normal or traditional again. I kind of like that whole. You get to see some faces you never get to see anymore, or all too often on your roster in September. I kind of like that. So maybe instead of 40, 32, you can still have your 40-man roster, but come September, those quote-unquote call-ups are down to 32 instead, just so it's not overwhelming with your AAA roster in the middle of September. That's kind of really all I can think of right now. Is just the big problem for baseball is just the speed of the game, the pace of play. Fans, watchers, viewers, they can't just sit there for 3.5, 4 hours watching a 9-inning game when instead they can just watch the next game tomorrow, or the game after that, or the game next week, or the game next month. Especially when the season is so long and so fat, you can catch any game you want, really. And every game's different, but you have tomorrow. And unlike football, where it's one game a week and there's only 16 regular season games, you want to sit and watch every game because there's only 16 of them. Basketball and hockey, there's 82, so it's not so condensed, but it's also not so, large of a schedule where, like, if you miss one game or two games, you're like, okay, I can come around and watch the third game. But if you miss too many, then you're going to run out of chances. But that's kind of how you save MLB from dying. Lastly, which is very controversial and very going to be hard to do, especially in the given current state that it's in and the current state of society with the pandemic, MLB needs to expand. They need 31 and then 32 teams. You got to largen up your fan base. You got 5 teams in California right now, and there are tons of places, tons of markets that could use a team. You got Utah, you got Portland, you could go for Montreal again, you can go for Edmonton, Vancouver, Virginia. There's so many markets that can host a baseball team because of their already stable sports market that MLB is just not taking advantage of. And obviously it's hard to kind of expand. You got to have an ownership group in that, location, but consider it, really kind of consider it and take advantage of a very wide open, very flourish sports community such as Portland. They got basketball, they got soccer, they have WNBA, and now if you can bring in baseball, then you can really kind of elevate Portland as a sports market into something else. If you put one in Vancouver, you'll get the Canadian fan base. You'll get the Western Canadian fan base. You'll get Northern North America for those that may not like the Mariners. Then you'll get the rivalry between the Mariners and this Vancouver team or the Mariners and that Portland team. There's just so much potential there. You can even throw a team down in New Orleans where the Saints are. You got the Pelicans for basketball. New Orleans is a great, city, a party city. You'll get fans down there, especially those diehard Saints fans. So this is something baseball really needs to consider itself because, like I kept saying, like the topic, baseball is dying. How do you save it? Expand your fan base, bring new, fresh people in, such as fans and a team. Quicken up the game, get rid of the junk, and then make it more exciting in other places, such as the playoffs. And I think those are some immediate necessary steps over the next 5 years that MLB should be able to take place. I think all of those rule changes is something that they can do within a year or two. Now the expanding of the teams is something that'll take a few years, but there's no plan in place. And like I said, this is something that's going to be hard to do because of COVID and the pandemic, but this is still something that can be worked towards and worked on. To expand baseball, to put baseball in markets where there's no baseball, expand into Canada again. It's just, I love baseball. Baseball is my favorite sport, but it's intolerable to watch sometimes. It really is. It pains me to say that. It really does. If they don't fix it, they're going to die, and we're not going to have baseball anymore. And I hope it never comes to that. And hopefully baseball can either listen to what I'm saying, even though I'm a small podcast, or hopefully listen to what other people are saying that may have larger platforms and take from what they're saying. So either way, you got to save baseball. Baseball is America's pastime, but let's just move on to the next topic because I'm starting to get upset about this. All right. Next topic. Here we go. Julien Edelman's future with New England. Okay, another tough one. I love Julien Edelman. I think everyone in New England here does. I mean, he's a good guy. He's done everything for the team. Punt returns, kick returns, slot wide receiver, going over the middle, making big plays, getting huge blocks. I mean, putting the team first type of mentality. He's torn his ACL. He's come back. He won a Super Bowl MVP. He hurt his knee again, and now he didn't play all but like 3 games this year. He's 34. He's going to be 35. What can you ask from this guy? Not much. And there was rumors that the Patriots would trade him at the deadline, maybe to Tampa Bay for a late-round draft pick. Link him back up with Brady and Gronk, and then the Bucs can go on to the Super Bowl, which is kind of looking like they're going to. But that's a topic for another day. Hopefully we can get to the Bucs and Packers matchup later this week. But anyways, I got sidetracked. Julien Edelman. We can't expect much from him moving forward. He's an aging wide receiver who is very injury prone in an offense that blows with a quarterback that sucks. But if you bring in a quarterback, could it rejuvenate him? Maybe. Does Edelman want to kind of go through the ring of fire again with the gut-wrenching training camp and then the preseason and then the regular season being injury-riddled? I mean, he's got a young daughter. He's got to keep her in mind. I mean, you're not going to have Brady again, here at least in New England. So what does he do? And I think the Patriots' decision is going to determine what Julien Edelman wants to do. Obviously, if Edelman wants to retire, there's no decision for the Patriots to have. But if Edelman wants to come back and play one more season, then what do? I mean, do you trade him, try to get anything for him? Or do you keep him and, kind of ride the wave of, oh, he's a fan favorite, let's keep him because the fans love him? After a season where the Patriots sucked and after a season where they let go of Brady a year before, you kind of have to keep him just to keep the fans along with them. I know if Edelman's traded to another team and he's playing with, I don't know, call it who needs a wide receiver? Call it the Texans. I don't know. Oh, no, call it the Dolphins. Dolphins need a wide receiver. So, say he goes down to Miami. He's playing with Tua or Deshaun Watson. He's got Devontae Parker, Gesicki at the tight end spot. Now that offense is starting to cook a little bit. They get healthy. He's down in Miami. Brady and Gronk aren't too far away in Tampa Bay. You don't have to spend any cold weather. You don't have to experience any cold weather, in Miami. Not a bad spot, right? Sounds appealing to me. But Julien Edelman. Love the guy. He's made insane plays for us. I mean, that Super Bowl play on the Super Bowl catch against the Falcons, winning MVP against the Rams. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous stuff, man. And I hope him the best, whatever he decides. And I just want him to be happy and to take his career to the next level and try to win again if that's what he chooses, or if he wants to just stay here in New England, ride it out because he loves the fan base, the organization, and the area, which I think he'll do. I think if the decision's up to Jules, I think he'll stay. I really do. And I don't think it's about the money for him. I think he's loyal. He's that kind of guy. And as long as the Patriots don't piss him off or betray him, kind of like what they did with Brady, then I think there's no reason for him to leave, with the exception of retiring. But you can't count on Jules to be the number one guy. I mean, I think the Patriots expected him to be that number one guy this year, and that clearly backfired. And it's not his fault he got injured. I'll never blame him for getting injured. But, I mean, in an offense where you're left with Damiere Byrd, N'Keal Harry, Ryan Izzo, they underutilized James White a lot this year. It's just like there's nothing going. And you bring Julien Edelman back into the mix, an aging Julien Edelman, which is nice to have him back, but you can't have him be your number one, probably not even your number two guy. So, I mean, does Edelman kind of want to be thrown in that situation? This is a decision he's going to have to make. And I don't know what decision he'll make. So, it's truly up to him. I have no idea what he would do if he retires or if he wants to come back. it's definitely going to be a wait and see kind of game. But I think he's only going to come back if the Patriots can kind of get a quarterback for him, and if they can get him a little bit of help and start to reestablish the Patriots as a competitive organization. Because after this year, they are heading towards the bottom of the barrel, and yeah, we don't want to see that. So I'm just going to pick the next topic because I don't even want to think about that. Because if Julien Edelman retires, then it's a full hard reset on just about everything, even though with or without him, the Patriots need to be doing. It's just, does Edelman want to be a part of that? And my answer is, I don't know. So here's our last topic for today, and it's the Bruins' need at right wing and defense. And then I specifically put top 6 forward and top 4 defensemen. So actually one of my topics is Zdeno Chara leaving, and I think that's a huge hole at the top 4 spot, top 4 defense for the Bruins, which they really didn't address with the exception of young guys. And they're going to roll out their young guys to see what they have. Because, one of the reasons why the Bruins got rid of Chara was because that they wanted to play their young guys because they had too many young guys and not enough minutes to give. Organizationally, a respectable decision. It sucks that they had to let Chara go. That's a topic in the box I hope to get to at some point. But, a competitive win-now Bruins team with their window significantly closing as every year goes on without another cup. Playing these young guys is definitely setting you up for the future, for future seasons and runs at the cup and all that. But when you have a group with Marchand, Bergeron, Krejci, Rask, whether you love him or hate him, are you really trying to plan for the future, or are you trying to win now? And I think the Bruins' approach at defense is for the future, which, like I said, organizationally a respectable move. But from the fans' perspective, we want to see that, top 4, go get them, stud defender, like a Charlie McAvoy, but more seasoned. And obviously you can't just go out and get one off the streets, without paying money or without giving up a lot of assets. And I think there's a lot of good options, especially last year at the deadline, that the Bruins should have tried to capitalize, for cheap rentals for as they push towards the cup, or, try to go out there and get like a player that's like a Charlie Coyle contractual situation where you got a year and a half left, not a rental, but you're not like also getting this player for the future. And then, come the next year, you can kind of figure out the contract situation after that, where you give up a little bit, but not too much, because it's that, gray area between a rental and an investment. And then the top 6, right forward, that second right forward, or that second line right forward, has been a problem for the Bruins for 4 years, and almost ever since they traded Tyler Seguin, right? Young stud on the right side. They just kind of let him go for a bucket of pucks, and now they have nothing to show for it because they kind of moved on from everyone they got in return from the Stars. So ever since then, they've really been struggling on that right side. I know they signed Jerome McGinley 1 year, but he was a shell of himself, and he didn't even want to be here. So what are the Bruins doing at right wing? They've tried to bring in all these guys over the years who are either left shots and play them on the right side, or right side, right shots. And none of them really have stuck, and they've made some good runs, but they've always been piecing it and patching it together. And now that's a disservice to Krejci, but I mean, like I said, same thing for the defender. You can't find this, good stud player on the market for cheap without paying, and you can't find some, guy to give up, some guy that a team will give up on the trade for cheap without paying. Like I said, that Bruins need to start looking for that Charlie Coyle type of player where you got a year and a half left on the contract, and it's not an investment, but it's also not a rental, that kind of gray area, and just kind of go for it. I mean, Charlie Coyle has been a huge success with the Bruins. He's a local kid, fan favorite. He's impacted on that third line as the third line center when he's had to move to the wing on the second line. He's done very well there too. So basically what I'm saying is the Bruins need to go try to trade for 3 or 4 Charlie Coyles, right? But no. The Bruins have always had a revulsion, I don't know, whatever the word is, at right wing. They've plugged and played a bunch of guys over the course of a few years, and really none of it's worked. That sucks. That really does suck, because like I said earlier at the start of this topic, that the Bruins window is closing very fast. And with the defensive mindset of playing these young guys, it's not an organizationally bad decision, but it is a bad decision when you're trying to win now, when you have these aging veterans that aren't going to be here forever. And in a couple of years, they could be a bum team. I mean, look at the Patriots. They lose one player, and now they're bums. And Chara leaves, and you're still pretty good. I don't know. If Bergeron leaves, I don't know. Where are you guys going to be? If Marchand leaves, where are you going to be? And you still got David Pastrnak. You can always split up that first line if you want to. But is splitting up that first line really going to be a smart move down the line? I mean, if you can have one really, really, really good line, and then, your second and third line be solid, what's the fault in that with trying to, even out everything else by breaking up your best line? I just don't think that's a smart decision from the Bruins. And I know they've dabbled within the playoffs to kind of mix things up and, generate some offense, and it works for a little bit. Yeah, sure. But, season long, I don't think so. I think that Marchand, Bergeron, and Pastrnak line should not be split up at all. And if the Bruins have to make an investment, if they were to make one big investing move, what would I want them to do? Top 4 defenseman or a top 6 forward, specifically on the right side? I mean, they've tried to make moves at the right wing, the right side. Almost every year, it seems like at the deadline, they're always trying to trade for somebody, and it doesn't really work. It's just going to kind of depend. I'm kind of banking on that these young guys kind of turn into something, and I think they will. They definitely look nice early on in the season after a couple games. So I'm going to actually say that right wing. If they were to trade for one of those positions and invest in one of those positions, I'm going to say a right wing, because if you can solidify that top 6 forward, those top 6 forwards, I think everything else falls into place very nicely, because you don't have to sacrifice from your first line. You don't have to sacrifice from your third or fourth line to fill in that gap. And now everything else needs to be patched up. I think if you can solidify your forwards, specifically your top 6, and then I think the defense can kind of fix itself and kind of, giddy up and play off of that offense, especially when you don't have Big Z back there, right? So the defense is young. The defense is relatively unexperienced, but the Bruins have been in the playoffs for a few years and made deep runs, so they do have that experience there. So they're not a bunch of nobodies, but there are a few guys that are young and hungry without a lot of experience back there as well, trying to fill in those holes on the defense. It's definitely going to be something to watch for as the Bruins play their shortened season, their 56-game season. And I'm definitely excited to see what the defense can do without Zdeno Chara. And I really want to see what the offense can do, if they can fill in that gap or somehow figure it out on the second line's right wing. So we covered an abundance of topics today with the quick hits. And then going into the whole Julien Edelman situation, saving baseball, and talking about the Bruins. Glad to kind of really cover that. Oh, and don't forget, the Celtics got 30-pieced by the New York Nickelbacks. So any thoughts, comments, please, if you're watching on YouTube, comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can reach me at Murphs_Boston ST at Twitter and Instagram. Shoot me a message, at me, whatever you got to do to get in touch with me. Murphs_Boston ST, Murphs Boston Sports Talk on Twitter and Instagram. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, reactions, whatever. Are my takes logical? Are my takes smart? Do they suck? Are they wrong? I want to hear it. I'll be looking forward to it, and I'll catch you on Wednesday. See ya!